Alright, so here's the start of the third and final cut. Basically, it's my point of view here at King of Motos. So this is actually going to have some technical stuff and us struggling. So compared to the part two, which I found painful to watch, this is going to be a lot more entertaining, I'd say. So you can tell right off the bat, this is, I think it's Sledgehammer. We're coming down Sledgehammer. It's Jackhammer or Sledgehammer. Pretty sure this is Sledgehammer or one of the two, but pretty big, nasty rocks down through here. And I guess I don't want to be impatient anymore and just start kind of pushing through and trying to get past these guys a little bit, since I know that this is really technical. And then looking at the course map, I knew we were going to basically get to the bottom of this and make a right and come right back up something really nasty and similar to this down. So this is kind of where it's actually starts to become a turning point in the race, where we start to spread out a little bit, and not necessarily on this downhill, but after the checkpoint at the bottom, we can basically come up a pretty nasty climb, and Manny got out ahead of us, and it was a pretty aggressive loose climb that I struggled with. I'd say we probably all struggled with it. I think it took out a lot of the bronze riders on the first lap. So I got past both those guys coming through these jumbly rocks, and I guess basically I just committed more, or maybe it was my KYB suspenders. I'll shout out there. But yeah, I don't know. I felt pretty comfortable on a lot of this rocky stuff out here. My forks were a little stiff. I had some people questioning me and asking me about suspension setup. And for hard enduro stuff, all of us are running a pretty soft setup, so the bike can absorb a lot of stuff. You can use the full range of the suspension. We're not completely hauling the mail and hitting stuff wide open, so you don't really need that stiff suspension by any means. And in the front end, I don't like it to be super bouncy in here. I was kind of struggling with the front end rebounding up a lot of stuff. So since this race, I've actually oh, here I am messing with my GPS again, apparently. I must have messed it up. Yeah, I was struggling with the front end pinging off a lot of stuff, just because I didn't have the rebound set right, and ended up changing it and getting it set up quite a bit better. So, yeah, this is all new to me. I forget, it was all pretty virgin coming through here, and essentially there's all these flag markers, and basically we were just using those to point and shoot as long as we were somewhat within the course. But we just came down that last one. Your goggles are kind of starting to get a little sweaty, and it's so rocky here, you really can't look at your GPS and you're trying to keep forward momentum. So basically just trusting the fact that the flags are where we're supposed to be going. And it's pretty crazy the difference coming in the second lap through here. There was like a full-on burnt line where we basically just kind of followed through it all. Here's another spot where not having the Gummy tire on the rear for the first two laps didn't really help my cause. Like I said in the other videos, when I had momentum, it really wasn't that bad, but here everything's super loose, kind of dusty and silty, and I for sure felt like I struggled more than I should have, especially when I went out on the gold lap with the Gummy tire. A lot of the stuff I struggled with the first two laps I pretty much rode through with ease. Looks like Manny actually just had a tumble or something and he was off his bike over there. And Colton was following me through all that stuff. This is where a lot of us kind of start getting confused, because it basically kind of dead ends into that next canyon, and we're trying to figure out where we got to go next. And some of us are taking high lines, low lines. I remember the second lap I had completely different lines. So, at this point, we're basically just trying to decide where the hell we want to go to get up this bit.
Hey, where you go down? It's gonna go in the canyon. Yeah. Look at the ribbon. Yeah.
know if you could hear there, but Colm was saying we had to go down and follow the ribbon. You can see it down there in the canyon. But it just didn't really match the GPS, which said that we kind of still had to go up and basically ride a little goat path. So I just kind of stuck to my gut and followed the GPS loop, and I think he ended up following me as well because it really wasn't super rideable, even though the ribbon was down there. I think it might have been left over from the Ultra 4 race when they were riding through that bit. So this is definitely probably where I struggled the most, almost probably for the whole race, was this first lap through here. And at this point, Manny was just kind of on his own. He just took off. So this is pretty much the breaking point in the race where things finally, there was finally something that was hard enough to be a separator to split us all up. And now you see Tristan in there in the mix as well. And I went down too low. I basically had to fight my way back up. So, you know, this is where line selection was really key, especially with the course being version. I think it really makes it a lot better because you got to pick it apart and find your way through this stuff. And, you know, yeah, it's tricky with the GPS, but at the same time, when you're going slow and you know the general direction, you know, no one's going to get mad at you if you go offline a little bit here, because no matter what, it's a screwed up attempt to get through this stuff. So I basically got up high enough where it was kind of safe enough to basically traverse across this last little bit before dropping into that main canyon right ahead of us. So I'm not even sure where Manny went. I'm assuming he probably went to the same line, but a lot of this is like spectator foot traffic type trail from the Ultra 4 guys. So basically I got up high enough and was able to traverse across. And I remember talking to Tristan Hart after the race, and I got a little frustrated here at this part. I might have to bleep out some curse words, I don't remember. I remember talking to Tristan Hart after the race, and he said I think that him and Colton went lower, so maybe they struggled a little bit more. It seemed a little bit more dangerous instead of staying high. You see some guys there in front of us. That's actually some of my buddies. They, Mike Aranda, Will Reardon, and Brandon Petrie, they were all pacing off each other, and there's a part of the course with the GPS where it kind of runs parallel, opposite from each other, and they were riding, and next thing you know, they hopped down and looked down and didn't even realize that they got back on the course, but they were riding the wrong direction, so they really got screwed themselves. You know, it really wasn't, it was their fault. At the end of the day, the course ran close to itself, and they didn't even realize by the time they got back on, they thought they were back on track. But unfortunately, they rode a bunch backwards. So bummer day for them because I ended their day quickly. So I got through the really nasty technical part. I'm basically riding up the rest of this canyon now. At this point, I basically know that I just need to eventually make my way up to catch Manny, since he got so far ahead of us right off the bat there in that technical bit. So try to be patient, put my head down, and see if I can catch him. Also, I apologize for the very poor video quality. Normally I don't think about having to wipe dust off my screen. I think of having to wipe mud off my screen after being roosted. So, you know, it's unfortunate that pretty nasty out here. Also, Tuesdays are daddy daycare day for me. So I had to take a break real quick, pick up the baby because he woke up and was crying. So we're both chilling, watching it together right now. Actually, it's just me watching it. I got him over my shoulder. You know, I gotta protect his eyes from the screens for as long as I can. So this section has been run a ton before. Super loose, long uphill. I think this is called Jack North, but maybe not. Don't mark my words. But normally I've struggled here pretty bad in years past, and this big loose climb there, and then basically we're going to ride this ridge all the way to the top now, and this is where it gets really loose. There's some big boulders right here in the beginning. They don't look that big, but there's always just a bunch of loose ones that'll catch your tires off guard in deep silt. So, it's pretty tricky getting up through here clean. Here's some of the big rocks I was talking about. So yeah, it's not easy, and for sure I've traversed this sideways up and down in years past, and when sometimes when we've done the laps out here or other stuff, you come through on the second lap and there's like a sea of dudes on this hill, and it's funny because it really doesn't look like much watching it on the camera, but it can be a real pain if you lose your momentum and struggle to get going again. So basically we got to the top of that now. We're going to drop down and come into another canyon, and I skipped ahead because it wasn't that eventful there for a bit. So this is pretty technical, a little down here, and I wanted to keep this in because I remember I crashed somewhere around here during the race. It's kind of sketchy because actually some of the Ultra 4 guys are still driving around on our course. Second lap has a ton of guys in one spot, so it's almost kind of dangerous. But anyways, yeah, so I don't know what I did here. It felt like a way bigger crash in person, and watching the video now, it was freaking lame. And I just remember looking up and there was a camera guy right down at the bottom of the canyon, so I was pretty embarrassed. That was literally the only place I fell all day, was by myself, right where the camera, it's just so happened to be. You can see him right there on the right. So after taking a nice little tumble landing right on the rocks, kind of smacked my arm pretty decent and bent the lever down. I kind of took a quick sec to get going again, and still knew it was a long race. So if I take a little bit of time to make sure I'm squared away and set, it's not going to be that much at the end of the day. So I'm probably going to skip ahead here again a little bit, just because no one likes flat open desert on a dusty screen to watch. It's not that exciting. So this is kind of one of the last technical canyons for a little while, and then we have basically had a ton of single track and the main valley crossing to get back to the main mountain that we started on. It'd be handy if I had a map to show you guys as I was talking about it. Basically, we start on one mountainside, kind of ride along the edge of it the whole way, and then big valley crossing, ride around a whole bunch, did the hammers that we just saw on this clip, and then kind of swoop out wide and go try a bunch of transfer type stuff, and then a really long valley crossing back and around the whole initial mountainside. So unfortunately, my battery died, ran out of footage, so can't get everything. But this is a reasonably technical canyon. Nothing like what we just saw earlier in this clip, but still enough to wear you down after 6 hours of being on the bike. So it all in all, it's just important for me at this point in the race to make sure I'm always carrying forward momentum in hopes that I eventually do catch Manny, which it took me a bit, but I was able to catch back up to him. And I think just because it's always way more difficult to be the leader, and at this point of the race I'm kind of the predator, obviously, and I know I'm not that far behind him. So as long as I hit all my marks, stay consistent, he's also the one leading, breaking trails. So sometimes it's not that easy, but I can kind of see ahead where he was going up to, or I can see dust, so it gives me an idea where to go. And for sure when I start, when I can see him way off in the distance in a single track valley crossing area, I can make a lot of ground up on him. But really, I want to say there's really not that much here, but it is still reasonably technical at the same time. Through all these loose, jumbled rocks, it's just really important, I think, to kind of be on your toes and keep the front end light. And second gear, first gear if you're going slower, but basically front end light, really keep that traction on the rear tire, and as long as you got that forward momentum, it helps a lot. I had a small little bobble right there. It didn't really mess me up too much. I do remember there was a pretty good sized slab coming up. It'll probably look small on camera, of course, but I was kind of sketched. Yeah, I was right here. Kind of sketched out when I first saw it, but I could see where Manny's marks were. So that's where being the first guy is tricky. Like I said, you got to be the first guy too. So he takes a little more time to spot his line. Where some of this stuff I can just roll up and see exactly where he had just been, and basically take advantage of not being the first guy out and breaking trail, even though there really isn't much trail to break out here. So anyways, I skipped forward across a big valley. There was a spot I was telling I could see the dust. You can see Manny just barely up ahead of me now at this point. So I was able to reel him back in, and basically for the next couple hours, most of the race was like this for me, kind of pacing off and on with each other, and then at the end basically I was just completely dehydrated and started dealing with cramping. So obviously I didn't prep enough coming into the race. Probably wasn't fully ready, and at the end of the day, Manny got docked pretty heavily for missing that checkpoint. The same thing happened to me before, where I had a significant lead and lost the race at the last checkpoint because I missed it. So I'll admit it straight up that I got beat pretty much by Manny. I did all I could all day, just didn't have enough left in the tank at the end of the race. So, I did all I could. I saw him miss back door and basically backed off and made sure I hit every point after that, because I knew that was a big hit to him and was probably going to cost him the race. So that's all I got for you guys. Hope you enjoyed it.